if I think you talk about the process in a helpful way, and we should talk more about that. That's the process is this constant coming back to like, God is there. God is there. God has an answer. God has an answer. Like whether we get the answer or not. And it's interesting that Job doesn't come to the right conclusion, like the final conclusion, until God speaks and he gives him the answer, sort of. But the theme throughout is just get me to God. Just get me to God. I think we should.
Yes.
That's one of the main themes here.
Yes. So as we look at Job's interaction with his friends in chapter 3, that's when he opens up, and we don't know that he said this out loud. It almost seems like he's talking to himself, but let's say that they heard him. He's cursing the day that he was born. He wishes that day never existed. Actually, he wishes he had never existed. Mm-hmm. That way he wouldn't have to deal with this, right? He wishes that he would die. His friends, they hear this, and based on what Job said, and based on what they believe to be true, that Job must have done something wrong to deserve this. Later on, they say your kids must have done something wrong to deserve this. So like they constantly are looking for that, like his wife, to say just curse God. And that was, if we read the book carefully enough, that was Satan's intention. Mm-hmm. Satan wants Job to curse God.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because that's what he says to God. Like he would curse you if you wouldn't be this good to him. So Satan wants Job to curse God. His wife wants Job to curse God. His friends want Job to curse God. Right? Mm-hmm. So in this way, we look at what they're saying. And then finally, when the friends speak, they bring this sense of condemnation to Job. And the thing is, we read these books, and like you said, maybe these are some things that we probably even would say if we didn't know the context, right? Mm-hmm. But the thing is, we have the law, the prophets, the gospels, the epistles. We have the canon of scripture, where all of these themes and all an understanding of our sinful nature has been developed for us in the scriptures, and then by the theologians that we have studied, all of that, right? We have all that understanding, and we can bring that to this, but we have to understand that this book is placed in a context where that's not available to them.
Yeah, it seems that way.
It's not available to Job. It's not available to his friends. So they are coming from an understanding of a very basic understanding, oral tradition probably of what they have heard about God and what has worked for them in their path. So they bring to Job, and this is all that they can come up with. Like, mortals cannot be more righteous than God. So Job, if you say that you're blameless before, that you're not to blame before this, and God did this to you, what you're saying is that that you are more righteous than God. And their claim is, no, that cannot be true. And we know that to be true because of scripture, because of, right? And Job knows that to be true. Job says, you guys are right. You're right. But it still doesn't make sense, right? So, and this is what happens when people are suffering, right? When my wife died 7 years ago in a car accident, a drunk driver killed her after church on a Sunday. Now, and this is where I'm not going to say my fight with Job, my wrestling with Job, or my trying to understand Job comes from, right? The next day on Monday, that's when I begin to read and I get to the text. I want to understand Job, because if I can understand Job, then perhaps if I can understand how he did it, then perhaps I can understand how I can do it. Right. I'm not saying I'm blameless like Job. I understand that I'm not. Because I understand that I have sinned, that none is righteous. Job didn't have that. Job didn't have that knowledge of the scripture. So as he's going with his friends about him, he knows that under their whatever rules they have or whatever basic understanding they have, under that, he says, look, I haven't done this, I haven't done that, this is what we have as set up as our rules. I've not broken one of them.
Yeah. Right.
So I would need an audience.
Yeah. Put it in his words in Job 6, 8 through 11. Job says, "Oh, that I might have my request and that God would fulfill my hope, that it would please God to crush me, that he would let loose his hand and cut me off. This would be my comfort. I would even exult in pain unsparing, for I have not denied the words of the Holy One." So he's saying like, it would be easier if I could call this punishment. Like if I could point at some sin that I did to deserve this, but I can't. Like it would be easier. I would exult in my pain if this was punishment.
Yeah.
But
he'd rather die
because I don't know, like because you can't honestly say that he's not right with the Lord. That it would be easier to call it punishment. So what do we do in those moments when the suffering, like we can look to no one else but God did this?
Mm-hmm.
How do we talk to people that have that? Like my kids, probably you when you were young and you had the lost in your family. How do we reconcile that with them? We have the scriptures, we have the canon of scripture, but I believe that yes, the scriptures are comforting. It's true. I will not deny anything in this book, but at this moment, God, it just doesn't make sense.
And it's this repeated cycle.
It
Like so
just
most of the book,
doesn't make sense.
4 chapters.
Yeah.
Is this repeated, like, how do we make sense of this? How do we make sense of this? And it almost gets into this like rhythm without an end and without a conclusion, and it's draining.
And I think, Connor, to go back to one of the first things that we said about these chapters 3 to 37, because it's such a cycle of Job talking, his friends talking, like they almost there's this counter arguments in Job affirming them. Yeah, this is what I believe that too, but what about this, right? Because there's that, I believe that it deters people from going into those chapters and truly digging out the truths that are developed by the exchange of conversations. This whole process is undermined, and if you just go online and look for sermons on Job, you'll find sermons on chapter 1, 2, and 3, and you'll find sermons on chapter 37 through 42 probably. That's it. But this whole process, it's undermined, it's neglected because we feel like it's just so repetitive. But if we really dig in, if we really go in and see, man, what is Job doing? How are the conversations shaping him? How is his theology growing? How is he maturing? How is he getting from point A, chapter 3, where he just says, I'd rather die. There's nothing else after that, so that's good. I'm good. To, what if there's an eternity? What if there's a resurrection? You said it before. What if there was someone to come in between me and God, and that someone has to be equal to God? It has to be equal to me. Well, who is that? Jesus. How does he come to that understanding? From his process? And I believe that there has to be this room within our theology that would allow people that are struggling with those questions to come to an understanding, or to dig out an understanding. Now we have the scriptures that's available to them, right? But also within you, how do you reconcile that? Because I do love God with all of my heart. I just still don't understand 7 years later.